Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CareyLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
1490 WGCH, this is Carey Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. A new guest on the show, first-timer on the Financial Survival Network, Ed Steer. He does a daily gold and silver report for CaseyResearch. Personally, for me, it's how I start off my day. Everything you need to know about silver, gold, and the world financial markets is there. Ed, welcome aboard.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's really great to have you on because I've been reading your column for so long. It's really part of my daily routine. How did you get started on it?
Well, I got started about 10 or 11 years ago when I first got involved with the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, GATA, and now I've been a board member for the last 6 or 7 years, and I used to write for Bill Murphy's La Metropole Cafe and also articles for GATA. And then at a conference in Vancouver, Doug Casey approached me and asked me if I'd like to write for his company, and I was flattered all to heck, so I said sure, and the rest, as they say, is history. I've been writing for him ever since.
And GATA is a really interesting organization because usually when you go to court and, for those not in the know, GATA, Gold Antitrust Action Committee, usually when I'm an attorney, you go to court and something's happened, you're basically just trying to prove who was responsible and how much they owe. Here, you're trying to prove something that everybody in the world was denying existed for forever. And now we're to the point where I think most people have come on board and understand that something nefarious was going on and is going on, but it's really been an uphill struggle, hasn't it?
Oh, it certainly has. And back 10 years ago, we could have held a convention of all our supporters in a telephone booth. It was that small. But as time goes on and the evidence gets larger and larger and more of it comes to light and more of it gets dispersed on the Internet, it's now become common knowledge. As a matter of fact, I would basically say that it's now an accepted fact of life that precious metals, gold and silver, are rigged by a cartel of New York bullion banks. It's as simple as that, and there's nowhere you can go now to find any kind of denial. Even the mining companies themselves know it to be true.
Right. So this conspiracy has been taking place, and I think what makes people believe it more than ever is a total undermining of confidence in the integrity of the markets, and the MF Global thing was just like the latest, but the confidence is really eroding in the marketplace, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you have to take a look at Wall Street and the banking system and the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department as one very large criminal organization, which it is what it is from top to bottom and back to front. These guys are all should be in jail, actually, for what they've done to not only to the American people, but the people of all the countries in the world, including my own country here in Canada, for the way they raped and pillaged everybody from the poorest to the richest. It's absolutely criminal, and why these guys aren't doing the perp walk in orange jumpsuits is beyond me.
Yeah, it's really disheartening, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. It's got to the point now where they're so blatant about it. They're out in the open. They don't care. John Corzine won't spend one day in jail for what happened to MF Global, and he should have been clamped in irons the moment the story broke. But he's walking a free man, and I don't expect him to spend any time in jail at all.
Yeah, I think when you get to this point where they don't believe in the system anymore, and they've kind of lost all economic hope, it's really at one of these crossroads where things can just go any way, can't they?
Yes, this is especially true with the new legislation that's been passed in the United States. And if I was an American citizen, which I'm not, I would make bloody sure I had a current passport and I had a bank account in another country and lots of gold and silver both at home and abroad. Because one of these days you're going to have to use it. It is really scary. I'm 63 years old, and I remember America the good back in the 50s and 60s when everybody loved and respected and admired America and all Americans. And I've just seen the way the country has gone down the tubes, and it's not only frightening, but it's very, very sad. America's the greatest country in the world, and see what's happened to it in the last 25 or 30 years.
It's such a tragedy. It's really a tragedy.
Absolute tragedy, yes.
An unnecessary tragedy, but nobody wants to make tough decisions. They all want to kick the can down the road and not take anything away from anybody. that led to the whole demise of sound money, I think, and Nixon closing the gold window and everything bad that's happened ever since then.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. And of course, the banks and the financial system and the governments of the world have reached the point now where they have to either allow a deflationary collapse or a hyperinflationary depression. In other words, they're going to have to melt the printing presses down to keep this dog and pony show up and running around the tracks, and that's the option they're going to choose, is to print money. And unless you're in something solid like gold and silver, you're going to get severely burned in the paper market, and I don't care what kind of paper market it is.
Yeah, so you think mining shares are in that boat as well, huh?
No, I most of my assets, besides being in physical, are in the mining shares. I would certainly be on board in those, and I've been all in for many, many years, and of course I got pretty well creamed last year in 2011, but I don't expect that to continue indefinitely. Canada being a mining country, I'm still a big, solid believer in good, competent mining companies that are digging the real stuff out of the ground. I'm still hanging on to all my precious metal stocks with both arms and both legs.
Yeah, me too. I figure if the dollar collapses or fiat currencies, whatever happens to them, there's going to have to be a global reset. And if you're owning shares, somehow you're going to wind up owning shares after the reset takes place. Mining that's where the real wealth is. It's not these paper creations, machinations of Wall Street. The real wealth is in the ground and what you can produce physically, not some digital dollars that exist, in the Federal Reserve computer bank.
Oh, exactly, and that's when I said paper, I was excluding, of course, anything to do with the precious metals. But if you own paper gold or paper silver or promise in paper, whether it be GLD or SLV or some other nefarious form of paper where they say I owe you a 100-ounce silver bar, I wouldn't give you 10 cents worth for that. So I would, if I had that kind of paper, I'd convert it into a more solid asset or into the physical metal itself if I was the shareholder. And like I said in my column, as many times as I can get away with, I wouldn't touch GLD and SLV with a 10-foot cattle prod.
Yeah, they just seem like they were just created to soak up demand for gold and silver and somehow keep the price down and allow them to short it. Because you look at the short interest in GLD and SLV, it's always high, and it just is waiting to blow up.
Exactly, and here's the other thing about GLD and SLV. The custodians for both, in SLV it's JP Morgan, and in GLD it's HSBC USA. They're also the two biggest shorts on the COMEX futures market in both precious metals. So when I see those names associated with an ETF of those kind, I'm just run as far and fast as I can in another direction.
I've been a big fan of CEF and GTU because at least they're audited and they don't write options. They've got the metal. They've been around a long time too, right?
Exactly, and I've owned Central Fund of Canada for a long time. I know Stefan and Phil Spicer personally, and I know Eric Sprott and John Embry, and these guys are straight-up guys, and I know they got all the metal they say they do, and so that's where all my money is parked. Yeah,
exactly, and there's a certain ease of ownership when you're holding that, because there's only so much physical unless you're building a bunker or have a huge vault someplace. Because the other thing is, you're an American, you got to be nervous about bank runs and banks shutting down and what happens to the safe deposit box full of precious metals when that eventually happens, because it's going to happen. I think a bank holiday in Europe probably spread to the U.S. There's a good likelihood of that, right?
Yeah, nowadays, there's any number of things can happen, and I certainly wouldn't exclude that. And the other thing I want to mention about those Central Fund and the other ones run by Sprott is the fact that the physical metal itself is not in the United States. It's in Canada, and I sleep well at nights knowing that it's not parked in the U.S. someplace. But as far as what bank holidays and stuff, under the circumstances we got now, sky's the limit.
Anything can happen. That's what percentage of the population would you say is asleep and doesn't have a clue what's going to happen here, what's going to take place?
I'd say a lot of people are concerned and know a lot that things are not right. But deep down, has anybody really done anything about it? I would say it's certainly under 5% that have done anything serious about it, and probably less than 10% that have even looked in that direction. So I would say it's going to be a case of most people are just going to get buried when it happens, and the 3 or 4% of the people that do survive have got their passports current and some money out of the country, and are prepared to jump the moment that things get real ugly.
what I have, I call it a financial survival plan, a physical survival plan, and a family survival plan, because your family can be scattered all over vast areas, and you have to have those plans to pull them together to survive if and when that should be necessary, which you never know. I mean, that kind of brings me to the presidential election. To me, it's like the Titanic has already hit the iceberg. It's taking on water, and the young ensign's coming up looking for a promotion to captain. Why would anybody want to do that?
Well, they're just going to put somebody in there that's really a puppet anyway, because the Council on Foreign Relations and a bunch of other people run the United States from behind the scenes, and they do whatever they want, and that's what they're doing right now. And as far as saving your family, that's true up to a point. I mean, you can save your wife and kids and everybody else, but there comes a point when you're going to have to learn to, you can set up your wife and your kids and everybody say, here's your passports, here's your money, and get ready to leave. But at some point down the road, you can only save so many people, and you have to look out for your closest family, and those are the ones you should be looking out for when the days start to become numbered. Exactly,
because you can't save the world. You could just save a very little piece of it and hopefully live to fight another day, because there's really not much else to do.
Exactly. That's exactly the way it is.
Hey, Ed, we really appreciate you being on here. If people want to find you, where do they find you?
They can just go to, they can just Google my name, Ed Steer, which is spelled S-T-E-E-R, or they can go to CaseyResearch.com, and either way, you'll come across my daily column, which is free. And you can sign up for it, put in your email address, and it pops into your inbox about, 7:15, 7:30 every day on the East Coast. And I'd be more than happy to have you, because, like I said, it's absolutely free, and the more people that I can keep posted on this, like you do, yourself do, the better we feel, and we think that we're doing good work, and I believe that you are.
Hey, absolutely. I will put a link up there. I have a link to Casey Research on my site anyway. I'll put up a specific link to your segment of the site so people can sign up and get the word out there, because everyone needs to be aware of this. Anyway.
Okay, well, thanks very much for that, Kerry. Really appreciate you having me on your show.
All right, thank you, Ed.